How many How many wrinkles in a pickle, how many hairs in a head? How many waves in the ocean, how many crumbs in bread? But last but not least, baby, most of all, why do I mumble every time you call? Because you're strange to me, baby. Oh, your guts in the morning. Well, I need you a stranger, baby. Please don't change. I know I belong to you. How many bubbles in soap?
I think I speak for both myself and the Maestro Dylan Reyes when I say we would just as soon play that whole song. But obviously there's a show we have to do. And the show is the one that we are doing right now. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. The number is 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. You can call in and say whatever is on your mind. And you can listen to us on the radio. And obviously we're on all podcasting platforms. And now we are also available on YouTube. You go to the Connecticut Public Channel and do a few things, and pretty soon this is going to pop up live. You can live stream. You can discuss my shirt or my hair. Don't discuss my hair, all right? First of all, it's Kai Risdal's toupee that I'm wearing today. Anyway, it's not even my hair. All right, so 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. A number of people have called up already, starting with Josh on the eastern tip of Long Island. I don't know if it's on the tip or not. Hi, Josh. You're on the air.
Hi, Colin. How are you today?
Just fine.
I like that song, by the way.
So it's an Elvis Costello cover of an old Screamin' Jay Hawkins tune, just in case you're tracking it down. It's called Strange.
Well, good. That will help me track it down for sure. I don't know. I'm 64. I'm a college professor to teach English at a community college. Mostly I'm home with the kids, tried to live a good life, do the right thing. I've done a lot of stuff in the arts. Never really set out to make money, but, doing fine. And I'm wondering, my life is my life, and the effect I've had on the world is the effect I've had on the world. But it seems like now we're living in almost a Sauron time, where, greed and avarice and the naked grab for power seems to have so much currency in the world.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say Sauron? That was what you were saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I was understanding. Okay.
Yeah. That's everybody seems to be going toward the avarice, greed, and destruction mode. Lee Zeldin is going to roll back the EPA, and the Attorney General is going to quit prosecuting ne'er-do-well, bad evildoers and all that stuff. And I just wonder if what's fundamentally wrong is my worldview. Was I misled to think that doing the right thing and recycling and driving an economical car and not accumulating tons of wealth, but life is more about relationships and the good impact you have on the world. And it just seems the other half, the sort of Sauron side, seems to be dominant. And I'm just curious if you think we'll ever get back to the Shire, or are we just permanently trapped in a continual loop of, just trying to hold back the red tide of evil?
Right. So many things to say there. I was initially, when you said how old you were, I was going to ask you if you found that people still need you and people still feed you. But instead, we're talking about Middle Earth. I feel like Sauron is, he's in an assisted living facility just a little bit outside Rohan. And he's just sitting there with a clicker watching this stuff and going, I invented this stuff. Why does no one ever say that? Why does no one ever say, I invented this stuff? Yeah, I think what you're describing, and you can even take it all the way back to the Bush administration and the kind of famous, I'm blocking the name of the journalist, but the journalist who was having a conversation with what I think we all now know was Karl Rove, and was asking some pointed questions, not all that different from what you're bringing up today. And Rove said, "Oh, well, you belong. That's the old kind of thinking. You belong to the reality-based community. We create our own reality." And I think there's a little of that happening here, but there's also. Yeah, people talk about a constitutional crisis. Jamel Bouie over the weekend was citing a piece by Jack Balkin about constitutional rot. which is just if you kind of leave the Constitution out in the rain for weeks and weeks and weeks on end, it's not so much that you have a crisis anymore. You just don't have a recognizable constitutional order. But I think you're asking
the mold has blocked out some of the writing.
There you go. But I think you're asking an even more basic kind of question, which is, are there two competing worldviews, one is kind of driven almost solely by the id, crush anything that opposes me, I can have anything that I desire, I can do anything I want, and I can obliterate things that I don't like. Whereas another one is a more complex symphony of the superego and the ego and maybe a little bit of id, and that's kind of what we're used to. That's kind of how we roll. And I don't think you're entirely wrong about that. I mean, the one thing I will say is that it's important for all of us to understand that the way we think about stuff doesn't resonate with, somewhere, it's like sort of 42 to 47% of the electorate just doesn't see things our way. And so why don't they see things our way? Well, they actually think that a lot of the things that are happening now have been unfairly suppressed in the past, and that it was one of the hallmarks of the quote unquote corrupt sleepy Joe Biden administration, that they sat on this stuff, and now things are going to start to happen the right way. So, and it certainly seems from where we're sitting like this is just the id talking, and so I don't know, I can't necessarily talk either you or me out of that position, but I don't know. It wasn't really a helpful answer on my part. I don't think you're wrong. If you're reality testing, I don't think you're wrong.
Right. Well, I don't know if I'm going to live long enough to find out what's the answer anyway. And I'm still going to act the way that I act, which is, being nice to people. And my kids are nice to people because they've seen me be nice to people my whole life. But, I called up my representative, like Voldemort. I will not mention his name, but
did he say, I'd like to help you, son, but you're too old to vote?
Yeah. No, he just wrote back this letter, Washington for too long has been run by bureaucrats. And it's like, wait a second, at least the bureaucrats were educated in knowing what they were doing. Elon Musk is cutting, the scientists that keep our nuclear arms safe. And, then you get into a point-by-point discussion when really it's just all wrong.
I mean, it's a hilarious answer. You should write him back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like saying this garage has been run for too long by auto mechanics.
Right.
That's who runs bureaucracies. Bureaucrats. Right. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Well, I don't think I've helped you at all, Josh, but I never said I was going to be able to either. But I think we're having similar experiences of life right now. Okay, we're going to go to Brandon in beautiful Torrington. Brandon, you have the floor. Hi, Brandon.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Oh, geez, Colin, we were talking a while. I did not expect you to pick up. So my prompt for this was you said you're not so okay. Are you okay?
I'm okay. I mean, first of all, when you heard me, that's what's called the billboard of the show. So that's the thing that runs right before the news. And I when I do the most hosts, when they do the billboard, they have a script, and I never have a script, and I do, sort of what in Freudian speak is called primary process. Primary process refers to a primitive unconscious mental activity characterized by illogical pleasure-seeking and wish-fulfilling thoughts. So that's the state of mind I'm in there when I'm just doing the billboard. I just say whatever comes into my mind. But I'm okay. I mean, at least I'm no less okay than most other people.
All right. So that was something I was thinking about. But then now, secondarily, I'm thinking about that, that's way smarter than I could talk about something. So we'll go back to the mechanic perspective from your scholar, where, as a formal technician who worked on cars and can work on just about damn near anything generally. Yeah. The people that work on the stuff don't have been all kicked out, and they don't know how to. That from a governmental perspective, the people that know how to work on the stuff have been kicked out of the shop, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it is a problem, and it gets to be a bigger problem in certain areas of life. For example, like the National Institutes of Health. It's kind of important. I'm not suggesting it's not important that auto mechanics get things right, because it is. And now they've, he's monkeying around with nuclear facilities. It just, these are things where things can go wrong in a very big way.
It's a whole depth of expertise. I'm blanking on the author right now. Nicholson. One of Tim Miller's.
Tom Nichols or
one
somebody
of Tim
like
Miller's
that?
buddies.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, Mike Birbiglia used to do this thing about going on a ride at the carnival and noticing, one of these spinning tilt-a-whirly kind of rides. And he's sort of imagining a meeting at the boardroom of the company that runs this traveling carnival. And they describe the ride and they say, this is a very high speed and dangerous ride. Who should we get to run it? And somebody pipes up and says, well, I got a 14-year-old nephew who smokes pot all day. How about him? And that's kind of who buckles you into the ride, except we've now applied that kind of, Doge is basically the 14-year-old nephew who smokes pot all day. And instead of a carnival ride, they've been placed in charge of an entire nation.
Yeah. They've got a 10% perspective on 40% of things, and they don't know how to do it. I looked it up. It's Tom Nichols. I don't know why I was blanking on his name. Death of Expertise. Great book. I recommend it.
Yeah, he's been on our show pretty recently too. I was talking about George Washington. Anyway, thanks very much for your call, Brandon. I'm no worse than you are. Nobody should worry about that. All right, so let's, particularly in the spirit of St. Patrick's Day, take Aiden next. Aiden in East Haddam. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi. How are you?
I'm all right.
I don't know if you heard my question, but my question was, how will you personally affected by the Trump presidency?
At the moment, I think, first of all, we're just a few weeks into the Trump presidency. I would say that I certainly have one very important family member of mine who needs Medicaid, and Medicaid seems to be on the chopping block. That's probably the top of mind thing in terms of my own personal existence. But, I look around at things that I care about, and those things are being eviscerated, whether it's the national park system or cancer research, infectious disease research. These things are either being eviscerated or politicized or both. And then, of course, I'm in the media business. There's constant talk about how public media is going to be zeroed out as much as possible. But even other kinds of media that I really care about has already been affected in different ways. The Washington Post seems to be, very much in the thrall of Bezos, who seems to be very much in the thrall of what the White House wants from him. I don't know. I feel affected a lot. How do you feel affected?
I definitely think that the free speech is a big part. Me personally, I'm a straight white male. I don't really I don't get affected by it all that much, but I know people I care about. And my sister, my mom, I care about them, and I know that Trump's policies definitely affect them a lot more than they affect me.
Yeah, and I think, not to dispute the premise of your question, but I think ultimately, and it actually goes back to what one of the previous callers was talking about, which was Josh, I guess, which is, are we confined to thinking? Look, I feel personally affected by the fact that people in Africa, children with AIDS, are dying right now because, in fact, we're no longer coming through on PEPFAR. Well, we had programs there that gave retro antivirals to persons with HIV, including children. We suddenly have stopped doing that. Those children are dying already. Nicholas Kristof wrote about this weekend. That's not directly affecting me, but I think part of the problem of the Trump administration is they get you talking about how things directly affect you, and I think it's very much in the beating heart of the Trump constituency is stuff, people who want things to go well for them, and they don't really want to have to think about anybody else, and they don't have to care about other people. And the reality is, the problem with the Trump administration isn't how it personally affects me, it's how it affects people all over the globe. People are dying. Children are dying who don't need to die. That's a much bigger problem than any problem I've personally been given by the Trump administration, but it's a real problem.
That's a really great point.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Aiden. All right, let's do one more. I have a personal reason I see what this is going to be about. I have a personal reason for laughing about this. But anyway, and I'll explain it too. But here comes Samantha in Hartford. Hi, Samantha.
Oh my God! Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you've seen it, right?
Oh, no,
Or
I haven't seen it. But I see what your comment is because we have, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we have my favorite leprechaun, Meg Fitz, is screening calls right now. So I see, I see what you said to her.
So, yeah. So I got a chance to watch yesterday the documentary on Apple TV that investigates the possible real Jim Morrison living in Syracuse and working as a maintenance man named Frank.
Wait a minute. Isn't that the final season of Better Call Saul? Is he working in a Cinnabon?
Yeah, it's the upstate New York version.
You mean I went and found his grave at Père Lachaise in Paris for no reason whatsoever? He's not even in there?
He's not even in there. It was sealed.
All right. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So the reason I was laughing, so I won't say the name of this person, but I have a friend, somebody that I knew years and years and years ago who was in the process of becoming a very well thought of teacher and scholar. But she was starting out, I think she was doing, she might have been teaching a class or she might have been substitute teaching. I can't remember. But whatever it was, there was a kid in the class who for the whole semester had basically said nothing. You know, one of those guys who's just sitting near the back and just not saying much of anything. And one day she notices that he's got his hand up. And so she says, yes, Peter, what is it? And he goes, Miss X, do you think that Jim Morrison might still be alive? Then that turned out to be what Peter had been thinking about, for months, just sitting there in the back row. So you're not alone,
Well, if you have $8 to spare, it is on Apple TV. It's 3 episodes. And while it might not prove anything, it is very entertaining, and you will get a good laugh out of it, if nothing else.
It pretty much, you pretty much have described streaming television at its best. It doesn't really prove anything, but it's entertaining.
Exactly.
You may also have described Ask or Tell Me Anything on the Colin McEnroe show fairly accurately, too. It doesn't really prove anything, but it might be entertaining. I might be flattering myself.
I've never had anything, I think, good enough to ask or tell you. And, I don't want to talk about politics. So
no, I'm thrilled.
I was like, wait a minute, Colin would love this.
So are you a sort of a Jim Morrison fan?
I mean, I am. I grew up listening to The Doors and classic rock and stuff. But this just kind of I saw an article for it. It just came up sponsored on my Facebook. And I happened to have the free time to look this up and watched it yesterday, and it was pretty funny.
I don't know. I'm assuming this can be Googled and hunted down in this way, but I would recommend to you Paul Schaefer's impersonation of Jim Morrison doing an Energizer battery commercial. I mean, it starts out, the Energizer. The Energizer. It's like that. So, but it gets better. It gets better. I'm not going to spoil the last part. All right, Samantha, great to talk to you. You seem like a delightful person, and we are going to take a delightful break right now. I'm going to give out the number, 888-720-9677. Samantha just proved you talk about whatever, 888-720-WNPR.
It could be that easy.
Hello there, I'm Sean Rameswaram.
And I'm Noelle King.
We are the hosts of Today Explained from Vox.
Every day you hear many news stories, but not so much context. And that's where we come in.
We find the people who unlock your understanding, be it an unheralded professor or a scrappy reporter from Uzbekistan.
One news story every weekday, fully explained.
This afternoon at 3:30.
Wouldn't it be nice if AI could actually do things for us?
Even just to do very basic things, like being able to make a sandwich or being able to clean a kitchen.
Some researchers are now putting AI into robots. Don't worry, they're not going to take over the world yet.
We can just throw some water on them, and in most cases they don't work anyway, so.
I'm Mary Louise Kelly. More on how researchers are applying AI to robotics on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Listen this afternoon at 4. Support comes from Yukon Health.
As money gets tighter and gig work easier to find, more Americans are working those side hustles.
It helps a lot. You know, just being able to go buy groceries without a calculator, I mean, that's a huge blessing.
I'm Kai Rizdal. How many jobs is too many? We'll talk about that next time on Marketplace.
Listen tonight at 6:30.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, now we're representing. But yes, happy St. Patrick's Day. That's Susan McCune from the album Lowlands, an album that the last time I wrote a book, which was quite a while ago at this point, that particular CD. It was back in the days when we listened to CDs. That's how long ago it was that I wrote a book. But it got me through the writing process. I don't know why, but I just played it over and over again. All right, so it's Ask or Tell Me Anything, 888-720-9677, 888-720-WNPR. And let's go to one of our fairly frequent callers, William from Middletown. Hi, William.
Oh, wow. Hi, and happy St. Patrick's Day, brother.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of like I have a very ambivalent feeling. It's sort of like how drunks feel about New Year's Eve. It's for amateurs, you know. Not unrelatedly, I feel that way about St. Patrick's Day.
I know what you mean, but it is, I don't know, I just can't help being, I'm proud of my Irish heritage. Yeah. All my grandparents and my mother were born in the old sod. So,
wow.
It's, but anyway, two things. I got accidentally disconnected last week when I called you to because my granddaughter was sitting in my lap, 1.5 years old, when she messed things up, but that's okay. And I have been feeling I wasn't going to call today because I'm feeling very depressed in a way. I don't like that word depressed, but very thoughtful maybe. But my other granddaughter is 4 years old, and she has autism, and her services are threatened by people who say they're on pause. I hate that phrase, on pause. That seems to be the byword. And this thing where our Colombian from the Columbia College with this whole thing with this is just why aren't people just saying this is illegal? You can't do this. I mean, we're saying it and people are saying it, and I understand that people are still stunned by the quickness of all these illegal acts and don't know how to respond. But in the meantime, people are suffering.
Yeah, and your story about your granddaughter puts me in mind of, I probably mentioned this too often, but took me a long time to sort of get to know and appreciate Lowell Weicker. But I happened to be, I guess, covering him one day, and he was giving a speech, and he was talking about how people view government, and that most people think that they don't like government that much, or that it's bloated, or that it does a lot of unnecessary stuff. That the kind of critique you're hearing from Doge and from Musk, it's been around for a long time. It's never been on steroids and poppers and ketamine at the same time the way it is now. But people have been saying this kind of stuff, and what Weicker said was, people think they don't like government, and then you ask them, particularly if they have, Weicker had himself a special needs son. You ask people if do they want government to do that? Do they want government to create housing so that people aren't living on the streets? Do you want the government to provide services to people on the autism spectrum? Do you want the government to do things overseas so that children who can be treated relatively inexpensively don't die of HIV infections? And yes. Most people say yes. It's just they don't like the idea of the government. But if you get specific with them, there's a lot of things they want the government to do, and then you point out to them that, the government probably is doing less of those things than it could because we spend so much money on defense, but that it's a much more complicated conversation. And I think in a way, in a horrible, twisted, toxic, destructive way, Trump may be teaching us a civics lesson right now, because as he and Musk shut down stuff, and as you say, pause very non-specifically and ominously various streams of funding that people depend on for really important, vital, things in their lives, you're going to see what government does. And you're also going to be part of a conversation about how, he's teaching another civics lesson. He's in reverse, which is he's showing us what government looks like when it doesn't function the way it's been set up to function, when people ignore all of the constitutional guardrails.
I think you're right.
So I know what we do with that civics lesson is a whole other question. But in a very, very painful way, he is showing us exactly what government does do.
That is true. And I've thought about things that I haven't thought about in a long time because of all this stuff going on. So I think you're right. He is teaching us.
Yeah. But, Chumbawamba, we get knocked down. We're going to get back up again. That's the only way to play this. And I have this feeling, I'd say goodbye to William so he can get on with this day. But I'm trying to think of an analogy. But sort of like if you're a Red Sox fan and you remember Bucky Dent's pop fly home run, like what if that happened 162 times in a row, over a shortened baseball? This is a terrible analogy, but what I'm trying to say is things that are really appalling and shocking are happening with such speed that it is very, very difficult to get fully outraged about any one of them. And Bannon and Steve Bannon indicated that would be part of their technique, that things would happen so fast that if you objected to one of them, you might miss objecting to another 7 that you would otherwise object to. I don't think that's any, an accident, or I think that's very much a feature, not a bug. All right, so let's go to, what should we do? We can go to Mark, and then we'll go to Rose and Charlie. A lot of people calling in. Remember, I know it's on your mind and in your hearts, and maybe you need to get it off your chest, but you don't have to talk about, you don't have to talk about Donald Trump. You can talk about anything you want. Here's Mark. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. No worse than can be expected for a man of my age and temperament.
I've been listening to you for a very, very long time. But anyway, I was wondering what your thoughts were about, I think I heard it today on NPR early this morning where Trump wants to pick his own news crew to, travel around with him and, only report what he believes is true and right in his mind. So it reminds me of, my dad was in the FBI for years, and it reminds me of someone that's trying to be like Putin or a dictator. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were about that.
Well, if Trump is not a dictator already, it's just he's now just putting a few of the missing pieces in there. But when you do stuff like over the weekend, you pretty clearly intentionally ignore a court telling you not to do something and doing it anyway. That's not, we're not on the brink of a constitutional crisis. That is a constitutional crisis. But yes, the other thing that the thing that you're referring to is obviously if AP is going to be a nuisance, then you don't seat them, you don't allow them, at White House press briefings, you push them out on the outside, and you put people in there who seem reminiscent of the character that Stephen Colbert used to play on his old show. Right. Who represented as some screaming eagle network or something, and they are going to take the place of the pre-existing Washington press corps. Look, change and shakeups are there. It's good for everybody, and it's not. Complacency isn't good. And you go all the way back to Timothy Krause and the book The Boys on the Bus, and you realize that pack journalism can be a problem. But and so I'm all for disruption, but this isn't disruption. This is cleansing. This is sort of ideological cleansing of the press, and it's the replacement of the more or less impartial press or the truth-seeking press with people with a pre-existing agenda. Yeah,
and because today he was suing ABC and CBS for a ton of money.
Right, and what's disturbing about that is either each one has either capitulated or seems poised to capitulate and these are not strong lawsuits. These are capitulations based on other issues that corporate ownership is concerned about. They don't want to go to war with Trump. These are suits. I think they could certainly the CBS. Well, both of these lawsuits seem eminently winnable, but you don't necessarily want to go to court with the guy who actually prints currency. And it used to be, I'm still, yeah. It used to be that you didn't want to go to, there's an old saying, never go to war with somebody who buys ink by the barrel. That was back in the days of newspapers, remember? But you don't want to go to war with somebody who prints currency either. At least ABC and CBS and Jeff Bezos and the guy who owns the LA Times, they don't want to go to war with this guy. The problem with that is when you're in journalism, sometimes you have to go to war. And it can be really hard. It can be, for me, the most direct experience of this would have been in the early part of this century, where I just became more and more aware that John Rowland was doing things that were profoundly illegal. But he was a sitting governor, and to go after a sitting governor, you face some opposition that you don't face going after other people. There's ways in which they can kind of make your life difficult. They or their followers, their cronies, the people who will quietly support them. And I remember this was being kind of hard, it was like nuisance complaints being filed with the FCC about me and stuff. And you never really know who's doing it, but it's hard. And it's much easier to operate with the person in the White House liking you. And so that's what they are tempted to do, these people who, the Bezoses of the world. That's what they're going to do. And the problem is that prior to deciding that, they decided that it was important for them to own and, to be fair, kind of save one of the most important newspapers in American history. So, I don't know. I'm babbling. All right, let's take one more call at least, and maybe more. Let's go to Joyce, also on Long Island. Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Colin. I think you're amazing. I listen to you often. And I was just telling your producer that, you bring me back to the days of WNEW-FM. There's some resonance there for me.
Do I remind you of do I remind you of Alison Steele, the Nightbird?
Oh, the Nightbird was she was my queen, my guiding light at the time. And I find that WNPR is just a signal, a beacon of, I don't know, maybe you can call it nostalgia or what have you. I call it brilliance, and I just love tuning in, and I'm always very impressed with you personally because you have a certain equanimity that seems to be just steadfast when you're surrounded by such an air of thickness right now. And I
I mean,
really want to know
the people,
how you get that.
Yeah, the people who work here would totally violate that image. They tell you the minute the lights get turned off or the mics get turned off, I'm a sobbing wreck who's given to wild mood swings and imperial whim. No, I don't know. I mean, first of all, I just want to go back to what you were saying before, because I think it's an important thing. It's a thing that I say a lot around here, which is that radio does a lot of things, obviously, but in some ways our biggest job is to be good company. And there's an intimacy about radio. I mean, you talk about NEW, I think people on either side of Long Island Sound during a period of fairly recent history. I mean, Jonathan Schwartz was there for a while too, and all kinds of really interesting people were there. And, particularly late at night, early in the morning, people would tune that station in because it was very special. And it was special in the way that you're talking about, Joyce, that it was good company. And I frequently say, you strip away all the intellectual pretense from the show that we do. Our biggest job is to be good company because people need that. And there is that intimacy that radio has that you can't get anywhere else. So I hear you.
I do agree with what you're saying, but no, it's lost on me. The intelligence and the level of information that you guys bring is important. It's important work. It's non-judgmental. I always feel like you're a safe zone for opinion, and I think that is maybe that's a thing of the past, and that's what resonates so clearly with me. But I think it's beautiful. I mean, the only other DJ that I really love is Don McGee over at FUV, and another sound of resonance where I don't know, is it sad to say the cool people hang out at WNPR?
Well, I think I don't know if it's sad, but it might be erroneous.
Yes.
but which is also sad. But listen, Joyce, you seem like a delightful person, and thank you so much for your kind words and for your call. So here's what I'm thinking. We got Susan, we got Charlie, we got Rose, we got Victor. We might get you, too, if you call 888-720-9677. But I think what we'll do is we'll take a break right now, and then we'll come back.
To Ireland soon. We're going away to Ireland, Ireland, Ireland soon, Ireland soon. We'll try not to get in the way of the guns, as we always do. Try not to get in the way of the guns soon.
Support for Connecticut Public Radio comes from People's Bank, committed to a banking experience as easy as possible because simple is their middle name. Real, simple banking. Learn more at bankatpeoples.com/simple.
I'm Scott Tong. Cyber operations against Russia are a crucial part of U.S. national security. There are many reports the Trump administration is now pausing those efforts, worrying cyber experts.
The Russian Federation poses a very significant espionage threat to military intelligence, commercial targets.
Next time, Here and Now.
Join us this afternoon at 2.
Copenhagen, Denmark sits on an island in the Baltic Sea. Soon, the city will be connected to Germany by the longest underwater tunnel ever built.
These two cultures meeting in one project is always you are making a new culture, a united culture.
But not everyone is on board. Hear why next time on The World.
Listen tonight at 7.
Does your business need a boost? Connecticut Public adds a dose of trust to make your sponsorship stand up and stand out to an influential audience. Learn more at ctpublic.org/sponsor.
That, by the way, is what we call the Maestro's Choice. We do it on Ask or Tell Me Anything, coming into what we call the C segment. So he gets to decide. He doesn't even tell me what I guess he sort of did this time, but he doesn't have to tell me what he's going to do. He being Dylan Reyes. So that song's called Let's Go by Sierra Hull, with the great Aoife O'Donovan also chiming in. It's Ask or Tell Me Anything. The number is 888-720-9677. 888-720-WNPR. We got a lot of people calling in. I don't see any little symbol telling me which one to take next. So I'll take Rose in New Haven. Hi, Rose. You're on the air.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
Sure. I'm fine.
Good. Okay. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to run this off. In 2017, I felt this was coming, and I was very fearful. To me, when Donald Trump says "Make America Great Again," he's saying "Make it white male again." That's what that means to me. I find that the people in Congress, besides Jasmine Crockett and her team, are all cowards, from the Republicans to the Democrats. They're just cowards. I find that most of the judges are cowards. I find when Donald Trump says we need to get rid of the word woke, that word means to be in your truth. And I'm a black woman, and I call myself poor because I live in the bottoms, but I'm rich because I'm blessed. I feel like there's two kinds of people in this world. One is humans, and they took the blue pill in the Matrix, so they're woke. The other ones are humanoids. They took the pink pill, so they live on a river called Sinai. And I feel like the trouble in Canada, because I feel like when I get
You're starting to break up, Rose.
Yeah. Run. And I also feel like there's a saying, today,
Rose, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm really, really sorry, Rose. You're just breaking up. I can't hear what you're saying. But I am aware of the fact that we now have evoked Lord of the Rings and The Matrix in one edition of Ask or Tell Me Anything. Pretty much about the same stuff, too. So anyway, Rose, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but there's a bandwidth problem happening there, I think, and could not really make out what you were saying. All right, let's go to Charlie in Norwich. Hi, Charlie. You're on the air. Hello, Charlie.
Hello.
Hi, there you are.
Yes, hi. Yes, I'd like to try a meme shot on your show if I could, Colin.
All right.
I'd like to try something out and see if it becomes a meme. Maybe it won't. Maybe it will.
That's beautiful.
Okay,
I can see this as a regular feature, kind of a meme tryout. I love it.
Okay, so here's the meme. When the old gods no longer honor the offerings of the poor, empires fall.
So do that one again, because there's a lot to absorb there. Say it again.
Okay. When the old gods no longer honor the offerings of the poor, empires fall.
Interesting. Well, first of all, as memes go, it's a little wordy. Tell me what that means to you, though. Tell me what that meme means to you.
Well, it's a commentary on current events. I don't think the American empire has much longer to go. The increase in homelessness shows that they no longer care for the people. The homelessness are just as first.
Yeah, no, I agree that. I mean, some of this, I think it's Robert Kaplan has a fairly new book out about this. That ultimately, the U.S., Russia, and China are all failing empires. Or I mean, they might be failing at different speeds, at different rates, but they're all kind of headed out to pasture. I don't know whether that meme works exactly right for me, but now I know what you're saying. Yes, I mean another way, maybe a more compact way to say this, and I think somebody already did, is a true judge of the quality of any society is how it treats its poor, and I think there's some truth in that. I mean, the difference between a democracy and an oligarchy lives somewhere in that area, so I mean, as memes go, like I don't want to be like Simon Cowell about it. I think, I don't know. I'd be tempted to send this meme on to the next round, which I think is going to be in Las Vegas. But it is a little clunky. I think it needs to be retooled. It's got to be smoother. It's great how I just made myself a meme expert. All right, here's Victor in New Haven. Hi, Victor. You're on the air.
Hi, Colin.
Hi.
I just wanted to call in because just hopefully spread some awareness. If people aren't aware, if it hasn't been talked about, there was a scholar here at Yale University called Helia Tagi, who was a pro-Palestinian activist. And apparently she was accused of ties to a terrorist organization on some random AI-generated disreputable website. And Yale dismissed her in short order, like I think within like a 24 to 48-hour period.
Yeah, she's been banned from campus, I think.
Yes.
Or banned from the office buildings anyway. Yeah.
And so I had
piece in the Times about it today, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had not heard about it. I heard about it on another NPR show, and it doesn't seem right to me. But my primary concern is also that this is like some sort of add-on from what's going on in Columbia, and that Yale might be obeying in advance, basically.
All right. So, first of all, I apparently need to say again that because Rose is listening, but I had to take her off the air because she was breaking up really, really badly. So, see, this is an example. The story that you're telling is an example of a couple of different things. One of them is that clearly, and you can see this obviously with the activist in Columbia too, that sort of rumor is judge, jury, and executioner these days, and there aren't any hearings, there isn't any fact-finding process, and the government is operating that way, and it does seem, and I hesitate to comment on this because to me, in fact, when I was teaching at Yale, I used to say some stories are rock slides that are still moving, and when you're covering one of those, you don't know everything, and you don't know where the rock slide's going to come to rest. It's harder. It's harder to make a discerning judgment about it. Whereas when the rock slide reaches an angle of repose, you can start to say more about it. So I don't get this right now, and I don't think Yale has really made much of an effort or done anything to explain why they're doing what they're doing. It seems peremptory, and it seems as though unless they have a ton more information that they haven't shared. It's also that whole question of, can you be pro-Palestinian? Does that automatically mean that you're anti-Israel or that you're anti-Semitic? I don't think so. I think you can be pro-Palestinian, and I think you also can be specifically critical of the Netanyahu administration and how it conducts itself without being opposed to the continued existence of Israel or without being anti-Semitic. And I don't think those distinctions are being honored very well in a lot of places. But I guess all I can say right now is I hope Yale has a better explanation of what they've done than they have offered so far, because it looks pretty creepy right now.
Yeah, agreed. And I just wanted to let if people weren't aware of it, I wanted to make more people aware because it does seem sketchy, very sketchy.
All right, so thanks very much, Victor. Let's go to Bill, and then we're going to go back to Rose so she can finish her thought. We've also got Susan there, but okay, here's Bill in Middlebury. Hi, Bill.
Hello, Colin. Just wanted to make a point. I'm not a Trump supporter, but he made mention in his speech to Congress about the bureaucrats taking over, and I think really there is some validity to that. And I think a lot of people are probably tired of local and state and federal bureaucrats issuing these regulations without the approval of the elected officials. There are regulations certainly that are needed. But again, I think what Trump has done is taken that little seed of discontent and made it into a slash and burn indiscriminate cutting of agency positions that is just way beyond the pale.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, we should say that most regulations arise from legislation that is passed by elected representatives, and quite frequently, I mean, here in Connecticut is the place I know it the best. There's a regulations review committee where then the elected representatives look at the regulations that the bureaucrats came up with to see whether it really conforms to the letter and spirit of legislation that they passed. I mean, the idea of these freewheeling bureaucrats just becoming, lords of their own satrapies, I think there's a little bit of a misstatement. On the other hand, you're right. There's a kind of inchoate level of of discontent with bureaucrats and bureaucracy, and Trump has exploited that to his advantage. But the problem, of course, is there's no actual review. There's no discussion. I mean, a good bureaucrat, an average bureaucrat, and a terrible bureaucrat are being all treated exactly the same way right now. There's no effort to make that kind of discernment. All right, let's go back to Rose. We have less than 60 seconds left, unfortunately. But Rose, can you finish up your thought for us?
Yes. Hi, Colin, again. I just was saying, I think that besides Jasmine Crockett and her team and a few men, I feel that Congress is they're all cowards. And I feel like Trump keeps saying we got to get rid of the word woke. And the word woke started in the black community, and what it means is to speak your truth.
Absolutely. Rose, I'm so sorry, but we are out of time at this point. I'm sorry that I had to cut you off before because of time, but now we have to say goodbye. But call back up next week. I'd love to talk to you some more about this.
Keep me from being alone, 'cause I'm no good at being alone. Take me to another level, let me play in bigger halls. I will do a river dance as long as you keep answering my calls. Get me out of my apartment, keep me from my empty walls. Someone hire John McCormick, start the wearing of the green. Let me win the Irish sweepstakes, let me take you home, Kathleen. I could be in love with someone, I could be in love with someone, I could be in love with someone.